Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2 Unit 4.8 Notes, Day 1. Today we're going to be talking about graphing quadratic equations in vertex form. Our learning target today is to be able to graph the quadratic equation in vertex form. So, what is vertex form? Well, vertex form is f of x equaling a parentheses x minus h plus k. So, don't be worried about it. It's not that bad. You've seen this before when we were solving. So if f of x equals x minus h squared plus k, then the vertex is hk. So a couple things I want you to know is that we're always going to be taking the opposite of the h, and the k is always going to stay the same. Okay, so looking at our example right here, I would take the opposite of 5 to get to negative 5, and then the negative 8 would stay the same. And this would be my vertex. Okay, now a couple other things that we need to pay attention to. We need to look at the A, okay, the number that is out front. If it's positive, it opens up. And remember, if we opens up, our vertex is at the bottom, so it's a min. If A is negative, it opens down. And if it opens down, our vertex is the max. It's the highest point. Okay? And A, that letter out front, it determines the pattern. If it's a 1, it's up 1 over 1, up 4 over 2, or if it's a 2, up 2 over 1, up 8 over 2. All right? Let's see. What else? Axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry goes through your vertex, so whatever your x is, so in our example of there, if x is negative 5, our axis of symmetry would just be x equals negative 5. And then last, when we're trying to find the y-intercept, it can be bound, you find it by substituting 0 for the x. So in our example, we have f of 0 equals 0 plus 5 squared minus 8. Sorry, there's the 0 that we're plugging in. Well, 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 squared is 25, and 25 minus 8 is 17. So we would get the vertex of, or the y-intercept of 0, 17. Now, let's look at our example. If f of x equals parentheses x minus 3 squared minus 4, the first thing we always want to look at, what's the vertex? So I take the opposite of negative 3 to make it a positive 3, and then the negative 4 stays the same. Okay, and then my axis of symmetry is x equals 3. So x equaling 3, that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then I know that my vertex is 3, negative 4. Okay, so what number do we have out front? Well, there's nothing there, so that means that a equals 1. It's positive, and it's going to be going up. Okay, so I would just follow my pattern of up 1 over 1, and then up 4 over 2. And then graph. Ta-da! It's not too hard, is it? Nah. So the first part says determine whether the function opens up or down, if the vertex is a max or a min, and then we need to find the coordinates of the vertex. Okay, so let's look at the number out front, because that tells me A is -1, and if A is -1, it's going to open down. So here's my little graph, it's opening down, and if it's opening down, the vertex right there is a max. Okay? And then the other thing that we need is our vertex. What is the vertex? Well, I take the opposite of -8, so it's a +8, and then my 9 stays the same. So my vertex is 8, 9. I'm just going to move this real quick. Vertex is 8, 9. And then I don't think we had to do it, but our axis of symmetry would be x equals 8. Okay, so there's a lot of information we can tell just by looking at this. A is 2. Okay, if it's 2, we open up. It's positive, and if it's positive and opening up, my vertex is the min. Okay, what is our vertex? Well, I take the opposite of 3, so it's -3. And then this guy stays the same, so -3, -7. And then my axis of symmetry is x equals -3. Okay, so we look at the number out front, there's nothing there, so A is a +1. If it's a +1, it opens up. If it opens up, our vertex is a min. And then looking at the vertex, I take the opposite of 5, which is -5, and then my 1 stays the same. All right, and our axis of symmetry, x equals -5. Okay? All right, so we have to graph the following quadratic functions, sketch the axis of symmetry with a dashed line, and write its equation. So A is -1. Okay, so if A is -1, we're going to be going down. My vertex, what is it? I take the opposite of -3, so it's a +3, and then my 8 stays the same. My axis of symmetry is x equals 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over here, draw my axis of symmetry. My vertex was at the point 3, 8. So 3, 8. And then we go down 1 over 1. Down 4 over 2. Okay, and then graph it. And that's all we have to do. Okay, so first thing, it's a +2. If it's a +2, we're going up. Our vertex is what? 1, -6, and then our axis of symmetry is x equals 1. The first thing that we do is graph the axis of symmetry. All right, and then looking at our vertex, we're at 1, -6. So 1, -6. And then I go up 2 over 1, and then up 8. So 2, 4, 6, 8 over 2. All right, and then graph. Remember, you want to try to make the parabola rounded. It's not a V, okay? All right, and number 6. Why don't you guys go ahead, pause the video, and see if you can answer all those questions, and then we'll graph it together. Okay, so A is -2, which means it's going down, and our vertex is the point -5, 7. So coming down here, axis of symmetry is at -5. And then I'm going to -5, 7. And it was a -2, so that means I have to go down 2 over 1. Down 8, so 2, 4, 6, 8 over 2. Okay, and then graph. All right, there we go. First side. Now let's flip it over. Now, if you notice, it's not asking for the axis of symmetry anymore. Now it's asking for the y-intercept, okay? I'm still going to write the axis of symmetry just because that helps me out when I'm graphing, okay? So, as we're graphing, we look out front. A is a +1, which means we're going up. We need the vertex. So the vertex is the opposite of 6, which is -6, and then -2. My axis of symmetry is x equals -6. But now I need to know my y-intercept. So my y-intercept is when I plug in 0 for x, okay? So here we go, we plug in 0. 0 plus 6 is 6, right? So 6 squared is 36, so what's 36 minus 2? And we get 34. Okay, so 0, 34 is our axis of symmetry. And now, or I'm sorry, 0, 34 is our y-intercept, Mr. Grice. Come on. Okay, so I'm going to graph my axis of symmetry real quick at -6. I'm going to my vertex, which is -6, -2. Just wanted to double check. And then it's telling us to go up 1 over 1. So up 1 over 1, and then up 4 over 2. Okay. Now, I probably should have shown you this on the front side, but you know, on the back side, it's just the same. We're using the same type of equations. You can plug this into your graphing calculator. Okay. Just once again, write it exactly as you see it. So x plus 6 squared minus 2. If you go to your table, okay, you can see everything. And if you look at our y-intercept, 0, 34, just like we said. And now when we go to graph, you can kind of see mine on the table right here. But there we go. We're getting the exact same thing, which is good. Means we're doing it right. All right, number 8. So I'm looking at the negative out front, and that's telling me that our graph, or that A is -1, and that we're opening down. Our vertex is +5, +4. Oh, that shouldn't be blue. My axis of symmetry is x equals 5. And then we need to find the y-intercept. So n of 0 equals negative -5 plus 4. We're plugging in a 0. Now 0 minus 5 is a -5, but -5 squared is 25. But don't forget this negative out front, so we have -25 plus 4, and that's going to give us n of 0 equals -21. Sorry, I should have wrote that on the other side. So m of 0 equals 34. Okay, so my y-intercept is 0, -21. Okay, so once again, let's just go through and graph. X equals 5 is my axis of symmetry. My vertex is at +5, 4. And then it was -1, so that means I'm going down 1 over 1, and then 2, 4, down 4 over 2. All right, last one. All on your own. Go ahead and pause that video, and good luck. Yes, you have to do everything. You can do it. Okay, so you should have gotten 5, -1 is your vertex. We're going down. And our y-intercept is 0, -51. Yes, that's what the y-intercept is. Okay, so here we go. I'm axis of symmetry, and then I'm starting at 5, -1. And so I have to go down 2 over 1, and then 2, 4, 6, 8 over 2. And then just to double check, guys, plug it into your graphing calculator to make sure you're getting everything right. Yes, even your axis of symmetry. Or your y-intercept, whichever one you have trouble with most. Okay, so we've got -2 parentheses x minus 5 squared minus 1. And if you look at 0, there's 0, -51. And then go to your graph, and we're going to get the exact same thing that we just did. Okay? Now, if you need any extra help, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra 2, Unit 4.8 Notes, Day 1. Thanks for watching.